Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And as requested, I'm doing that video on how to steam your eggs. It doesn't matter if they're fresh from your own chickens or store-bought eggs, in order to make them very, very easy to peel. This is the best method all around. And even though I had been told about it a year or so ago when I shot that video about how to boil eggs to make them easy to peel, I kept forgetting to give it a try. So once I tried it, I was hooked. Best method ever for several different reasons. So the first thing you're going to need in order to steam your eggs is to have some kind of steamer basket. I had at least one person say that they use a double boiler. That could be a way to make it work too. But this is the one I actually just recently got to replace my old one that just kept falling apart every time I even touched it. It was so old. I think I actually got it at a garage sale. And this has been a really nice one. I will link to it down below. What you want to make sure, if you have the fold down feet like this, which I did forget to do one time, you want to fold the feet down so that you have more room to put the water down here. I couldn't figure out what the issue was last time I went to steam my eggs and why it seemed like I had to keep pouring so much water out. But anyway, these they unfold like this. This is actually a pretty good size one. You can get a size smaller if you're going to put it in a smaller pan. But the nice thing is these will adjust to fit various different size pans. And this one has an adjustable handle in the middle, which is an added nice feature in one way, but the little handle at the top can also sort of get in the way. And then you're going to want to put in about that much water, because you don't want it going up into the basket. Just enough water so that you have plenty for it to steam, but not boil the eggs. So you want to keep it below the basket level. And so about at least an inch of water is going to be average, but it'll depend on the height of your steamer basket. But it's not going to be a huge deal for it to be a lot of water, because you don't need to steam them for very long. Like most things you steam, it can cook a lot faster steaming than boiling something. So when it comes to vegetables, like doing Brussels sprouts, you know, any kind of raw vegetables like that I'm not going to saute or stir fry, I like to steam them because it's a very quick process and you're not losing so much nutrients into the water when you do that. And with that in mind, the same is going to apply to your eggshells. For those of you who are saving the eggshells to use for other purposes, when you steam your eggs, you're going to be able to conserve more of those minerals within the eggshells, rather than when you boil them, a lot of that leaches out into the water. So once you have your basket into your pan, just start putting your eggs in there, as many as you can fit in there or as few as you want. And then make sure that whatever pot you put it in has a good lid on it. So for example, this pan right here is my favorite to use. Because of the height, it's a little bit taller. It gives me plenty of room upwards without it being too wide. So that means I don't have to put as much water in it when I do that. And then it has a nice lid with a glass top, which is also nice in this case, but not necessary. It can be a stainless steel lid if you want. And I'll show you, since I got this out, how this fits in there. You see? And it will just conform to the shape of the pan like that, as you can also see in the images that I'll be putting. So then you just put your eggs in there and set that on your stove. And then at that point, that is when I turn the heat on. My eggs in this case are usually, when I'm using them, they're already at room temperature, but I especially recommend waiting to heat this up, your pan and all that, until you have your eggs in there. If you're using cold eggs straight from the refrigerator, it doesn't matter if they're already room temperature or straight from your chickens, but if they're cold eggs, then you want everything to heat up together, because you're going to be less likely to have the shells on them crack while they're heating up. So this also applies to boiling, but after doing the steaming, I'll never go back to boiling eggs again. So again, you got your lid on there, put it on your heat source, turn your heat source on. When I first did it, I did it on the stove top because I can get a quicker boil on the stove top than I can do on the wood stove. And sometimes on the wood stove, unless I have a rip-roaring hot fire, I can't get a real hard boil. So I don't do hard boiled eggs on there. But when I did try this the next time, I did do it on the wood stove. But there's some little trial and error there I'll talk about in a bit. You'll get real good results first try if you use a conventional stovetop or even a hot plate, anything that can get that temperature of the water up to full steam right away. And you'll know when it's steaming, even if you can't see through the lid or you don't want to take the lid off, is you'll hear that water in there boiling. And that's the other thing too, that water is going to boil a lot quicker because it's so shallow than when you're totally immersing the eggs into the water. And you know, there's a lot more water there that needs to heat up. So this heats up a lot faster. Then once it's to that point where it's boiling and it's making a lot of steam, that's when you start your timer. I find that 15 minutes seems to be just right. You can go for a couple minutes longer if you like them a little harder. I like them to where the outside of the yolk starts to turn just a little bit of that greenish color. To me, that's absolutely perfect. And then at that point, once they're done, you can actually, as long as it cools down enough where you can handle it, you can actually peel that egg easily while it's still hot. You do not have to cool it down right away. But I do still recommend, especially if you're in a hurry and you're wanting to get to peeling those eggs, put some cold water straight from the tap into that pan, dump out any hot water that's in there first, put that cold water in there, let it sit for a minute or two, dump that water out, and then fill it up again with the coldest water you can. You do not have to add ice cubes to it, but that's an option if you really want to. The colder the water is, the faster it will bring the temperature of the eggs down, and thus the easier they'll be to handle when you go to peel them. And then keep in mind the video clips I'm going to show you here of me peeling the eggs once they were done is the ones that I did on the wood stove. So there was a few things I did wrong there trying to do it on the wood stove. So I had a few eggs that wanted to, where the peels were coming off fine, but the eggs themselves wanted to crack. And I think that had to do with the whole cooking process. I didn't have a rip roaring fire going. It took me a long time to get it to a point where it was really starting to steam. And so it was really kind of guesswork, wondering how long I should actually cook them. So I think that was part of the problem there. But in general, all but one of the eggshells slipped right off there, no problem. So yes, it was perfect. I am so happy with this method and how easy the eggshells come off the eggs when using the steaming method, and find it actually just easier all the way around doing it that way and a little bit quicker. And so then, you know, the final result is that, especially if you're hard boiling the eggs in order to use for making deviled eggs or fermented eggs like I have going here, then it's really nice if your eggs aren't shredding into a whole bunch of teeny tiny pieces as you're trying to get the eggshells off there. You want those eggs to look nice and smooth for whatever it is. And I do like making deviled eggs from time to time, so it is also nice for that as well. Anyway, so that's just how I did it, and I didn't add any salt, baking soda, and nothing to the steaming water. There was no need for any of that. And also no need to do any other preparation to the eggs before that, other than the fact that I do still like to wash my eggs before I cook them at all. That's just me. Everybody's going to have their preference when it comes to that. So anyway, that's it. And I hope you give it a try if you haven't already. I know many of you already do this, and in fact it was from you guys that I got the idea in the first place. Thank you for that. Definite time saver and just made my life so much easier. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.